So now I would like actually to announce the next panel, and with no words, I can say we are super lucky because today we have the best moderator in the world, who is Mark Boris Andrejanic, Minister for Digital Transformation of Slovenia 2021-2022 and Vice President at Kumo AI. I would also like to invite Dimitru Aliba, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for Economic Development and Digitalization of Moldova. Thank you very much for coming. Guy Diedrich, Senior Vice President and the Global Innovation Officer at Cisco. Marta Poslat, Director, CE and Transatlantic Public Policy at Google. Philip Meissner, the Chair of Strategic Management and Decision Making at ESCP Business School in Berlin, and the founder and director of the European Center for Digital Competitiveness. And of course, Victor Leach, President, East Europe Foundation. Dear colleagues, we are almost ready to host you on the stage. And so please welcome. Thank you, thank you.
Excellent. We're all here. Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Dear Valeria, dear Mikhailo, thank you for an amazing presentation and all the great work that you're doing in Ukraine. But most of all, thank you for inspiring the world, for showing governments in Europe and beyond that it can be done. And after this presentation and everything that you've done, I don't think any government has any excuse to delay digital transformation, not just of public services, but also societies by and large. You've truly achieved more in a couple of years during the war than most countries have, unfortunately mine as well, in decades of peace. And as Marta likes to say, you truly are the Google of GovTech. Now, I couldn't imagine a better intro to our panel, which is dedicated to the future of government, than your presentations. Although I must say you will be a very, very hard act to follow. But luckily we have an amazing set of panelists, starting with Mr. Dumitru Alba, who is Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Digitalization as well as Economic Development of Moldova. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I would also like to welcome Marta Poslat, who heads Google's Public Policy and Government Relations in Central and Eastern Europe, as well as Transatlantic Relations for Google Europe. We also have Dr. Guy Diedrich, who is Senior Vice President and the Global Innovation Officer at Cisco. Philip Meissner is also with us. He's a professor at the renowned business school in Berlin, ESCT. P. I always make the same mistake. Philip is also the founder and president of the Center of European Digital Competitiveness. And last but not least, we have with us an amazing Ukrainian civil activist, Victor Leach, who heads the East Europe Foundation, which is one of the most important and the biggest Ukrainian charities. So thank you, everyone, for joining this panel. Now, today's discussion will be comprised of two parts. I will be moderating the conversation first, but then, obviously, we would love to hear from you. So after 40 minutes, I'll open the floor. So listen carefully and start preparing provocative and igniting questions. Now, let me start by asking all of the panelists today to give us a brief feedback on what they've just heard from Valeria and Mikhailo, and how does their vision complement your idea of the future of government? What will be the mix of human and artificial intelligence in our future? And maybe Marta, let's start with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Valeria, and the whole team of Davos Ukraine House for having me for another year in a row. While I'm very happy to be here, I'm extremely sad that we're still meeting in the context of war, which makes me feel even more humbled by what we've seen on the screen. And I think, Mark, you've said it all, and you were spot on. I think all of us in the room should feel ashamed for all the decisions we haven't taken while we're working at the at the ambition and all the hard work that is going behind all the GovTech ideas of the government of Ukraine. And I think, again, it sets a very high standard for governments and for companies. And I would like to focus on the companies part. I think my colleagues here will be better to comment on the government piece. Specifically, that there are all capabilities, there are all capacities that can be used to make government work in a more citizen-friendly way, in a more user-friendly way. And Ukraine sets that standard even higher than we thought possible a few years ago. And of course, where I sit, we very often talk about, how the EU sees that, how the US sees that, and while we consider everything that in the context of peace, we definitely have more space to doubt, to be critical, not to bypass, and I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like ideally, we should consider a reality where we are not prompt by the war, and I would like to use what Google now tends to say about the AI explosion, AI revolution, that it all should be bold, responsible, and together. We should be bold because AI and technological capabilities really provide grounds not only to create better government services, but generally to solve many societal issues. And in that sense, technology of the future is here today, and we should be definitely leveraging that opportunity. Responsible, because at the same time we keep on discovering new risks and threats, and that's something that needs to be accounted for, and that's definitely something. And I think this is, by the way, the baggage that countries at peace should be carrying for countries like Ukraine that are at war. So Ministry of Digital Transformation in Ukraine should be really focusing about rushing forward, and we are here as partners who can come in with reflections and also show you our luxury of wondering about, of considering certain limitations, and that's the responsible part. And together, because this means government needs to be the one dictating the framework for government services. Tech companies around the world are providing different types of services, and there are citizens and users who should be providing feedback and needs and have this loophole of feedback. And in that sense, it should be done together. And it's incredible to see how this ecosystem works for and in Ukraine. Google is proud to be a little part of it. And we are definitely dedicated to help that vision come to fruition.
And we'll talk more about it later on. Thank you, Marta. Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. It's really a pleasure to meet old friends already, I could say. Well, on our side, just doubling what Minister Fedorov said, of course, it's about the future. And it's, of course, let's reflect quickly how a government of the future looks like. And that's definitely not, corridors with counters and grumpy civil servants that often ask for bribes, let's face it, and often look for an opportunity to delay things instead of rushing things and solve the people's problems. And this is what we want to build and learn from each other with Ukraine, and that's a government that is focused on the citizen, the government that is looking at the people's needs in order to be useful, to be part of the solution. After all, not as it is too often part of the problem. Now that means a lot of action, that means a lot of change, and that means a lot of stubbornness very often, because I'm sure I'm not telling only Moldova stories, but also the people, the countries in the region have still this reluctancy which we have to cut through and really evolve from what I said, from a government that is keeping the people waiting in queues and collecting stamps and paperwork, to a government that is just in a mobile app, and that just in a phone or at a click's distance, where you can have all your problems solved, and that's what we are moving towards. Just to illustrate how we are progressing, at the moment we have already 52% of public services for entrepreneurs available in digital form, out of which 2/3 are actually requested in digital format. We are building together, we were discussing with our friends from Ukraine, and we are almost ready with our own app as well, where we will populate these services in order to really achieve this change. Because what we are after here, the ambition should not be any less than really transforming and totally changing the way the government is perceived by the people, and the way the people and the entrepreneurs perceive the government and see the government. And it's, again, there are countries that prove that it's possible, because in Estonia nobody has a clue where the office of the tax office is, or the office of customs office, or the office of, I don't know, food safety, or whatever. Everything is already online. It is possible. We should really just learn from each other, share information on how to do it better. It's not a matter of is it possible or not, or is it suitable or not. We are not coming back to paperwork. We have to burn this bridge. We are going into the future, and really, I think, the most, at some point, the most beautiful things I think we can say with it is that you don't have to be a already developed country in order to embrace digitalization. You can use digital transformation to have this shortcut to enable the economic growth, the fast economic growth that our region needs, to enable the fight against corruption, to enable the citizens to be more powerful against a bureaucratic state that sometimes is not playing on the right side. Let's face it, and let's try not to hide behind the finger all the time. And of course, to defend our democracy and to defend our system from corrupt interests and from corrupt influence that is very often has one target and one target alone: to destroy a country from within by using corruption, by using all kinds of hybrid elements that we are a target of. So yeah, thank you for this.
Beautifully said, and it all starts with a grand vision. And I remember my favorite campaign slogan of President Zelensky, which was "Government in an app." And at the time, it looked and sounded super transformational, but look where we are now. And thank you for bringing up Estonia. I think the only thing that you can do online there is getting a divorce.
Already you can do that too.
You can do that too, okay. Philip, maybe your take on the future of government.
So, to be honest with you, I was so impressed when I saw this video, and you mentioned that you perceive yourself as a European tiger in GovTech. I think you're the... Yeah, I would say you're the global tiger, to be honest with you. I've never seen anything better than this presentation, and it's really awesome. And I think, this vision that you created and the tools that you create, this is the future of government, yeah? Because it combines two things, and I think these two things are really crucial. First is agility, and the other one is results. And both of those have been summarized quite nicely, I think, in your presentation. I mean, you say you will launch something in April. Normally, when I talk to politicians, they would say in 5 years from now or something like this, or by 2040 or something like this. Yeah? So this short-term time horizon is really, really important, I think. And the second one, results orientation. What really inspired me was a conversation with Pete Buttigieg in the US I had last year. And he was asked basically, what is the solution to solving populism? And he said, results. Yeah, so, and I fully agree with that. Yeah, so yeah. The people expect results from governments, and I think in most cases they are not able to deliver these results. And digital technologies enable governments to really create results quite quickly. And I think there's a huge misconception that many politicians have, at least I perceive it as a misconception, which is that their job is done when a certain legislation has passed, and not when this legislation has created any kind of impact for the citizens. So I think there needs to be a reframing in this. And also, I mean, I love this notion of government as an IT company. So I think this is also something that others can learn a lot from, maybe reperceiving the role of government a little bit towards thinking more like a company and delivering results also like a company.
Thank you, Philip. You're calling for the redefinition of politics, and this is something I can completely subscribe to. Guy, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. The genius of what Michaelo and Valeria have done is to take what is extreme difficulty, extreme challenge, and tragedy, and turn it into something that's revolutionary. And it truly is. What you saw up there, I'm responsible for 51 countries for our company around the world, and nobody's doing this. You started with a blank sheet of paper and built from there what you just saw up here. It's extraordinary. To see DIA and the breadth of DIA makes me incredibly jealous in the US, right? We have to stand in lines, everything is paper-based, everything's in triplicate. It's embarrassing to be here with our system and see what's up there. Seriously, it's extraordinary. Now, Maria, you saw just a flash of Maria. We've been working with Valeria and Michaelo for a while now, connecting 1,600 schools in Ukraine. And that's basically just a platform. And when you talk about Maria and you talk about doing everything mobile first, that is the future of government. First and foremost, it's how you're going to get access to what we believe are fundamental human rights. Access to healthcare, access to education, access to government services. And they're doing everything right. So essentially, you're going to be seeing the future of government as Ukraine emerges from this war, from this invasion. You're going to see a country that's probably going to be the most connected, the most technologically advanced, and the most secure country in the world. It's going to be setting a new example. And we're just so proud to be a part of, a small part of what they're accomplishing.
That's beautifully said. Thank you very much. DIA is not just an amazing e-government super app, but it also offers a number of other services. If I'm not mistaken, millions of Ukrainians were watching the World Cup finals through DIA, which is the only way that they could access that event, which is just amazing. Now, Your Excellency, Moldova has made great progress in the area of good governance and digital transformation in the past couple of years. If I'm not mistaken, last year your government even received a special award for the design of digital public services, which you won in a competition organized by the ITU and the GovStack initiative. And we would love you to share some of the examples of reforms and programs that have been transforming your public service, enhancing your innovation ecosystem, and strengthening democracy.
Well, thank you very much. Indeed, we are pushing ahead, and this recognition for the best public service is a good sign and a good approval. But what we are doing right now is much more than that. We are also part of the UN's campaign 5 in 55, that is to be among the first 5 countries in the world to digitalize at least one of the digital public infrastructure fully. What we've done in the last year or so was to prioritize really the the visible part, because the architecture is there. However, we want to really show that digitalization delivers for the citizen and for the entrepreneur. And as I said, we are using digital transformation in order to have this enabler of economic growth. That is why each and every authority that is providing at least one public service to citizens, to entrepreneurs, they have this already as a priority. And this has allowed us to move from only June to end of this year from 38% of public services that were available in digital form to 52%. And we are going to 75% by the end of this year. And of course, we're never stopping until we reach 100%, because again, it is possible. But that's not all that we do. I've mentioned briefly our Evo app, which will be launched already in Q1 and in beta testing. And this will allow us to really gather all the little digitalization parts that we already have around the government and put them, again, inspired by Ukraine, put them in the same place, in the same app, in order to have this synergy and in order to really be as useful as possible to the citizen, because as a service provider, the citizen is your customer, and the customer has to be happy, and this is what it's about. This is how the government should function.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, Victor, you and East Europe Foundation have been leading the charge against corruption by promoting transparency at all levels of government. How have digital tools helped you and Ukraine in general enhance the accountability of public institutions? And what kind of mechanisms as well as trainings should governments adopt in order to ensure that the future of government is corruption-free?
Thank you, Mark. Definitely will present you with these transformations. But first of all, I would like to have present you a little bit feedback of what we've heard from Mikhail and Valeria. Imagine Ukraine as a very young state, which has turned 30 last year. And probably everybody understands that 4 last years were the hardest years in our history. 2 years of COVID pandemic and 2 years of full-scale invasion. And regardless of the fact that Ukraine is in digital transformation for more than a decade, 90% of all digital transformations being done during these 4 years, 4 hardest years. And as you said, do you have any other excuse not to start digitalization? I would call for action to other countries. And here's Ukrainian message to the world. Be brave enough. Ukraine demonstrated braveness and ability to transform on the hardest possible circumstances. Mria appeared for kids starting in bomb shelters during air alarm system where no electricity, no heat. Kids are continue studying using online platforms. So this is a great sample. So my message to the world is be brave like Ukrainians and start digital transformation even before you're ready for that. Probably this is most kind of critical idea I would like to share with you. So coming back to the issues of corruption. I mean, Ukraine is corrupted state. I think is a corrupted state. I think this is a very old expression and myth. At the moment, Ukraine has probably one of the best level of e-services in country. Again, just several samples. One of them is registration of a sole entrepreneur status or LLC. And I have a story to tell you. Within one day, you can open your company, virtually and start your operations with open account. Last year, very last year, exactly 1 year ago, we announced Digitality. Digitality is an international company based in Belgium, which is about to promote digital instruments. We spent 2 months in opening an account in Brussels, which is kind of nonsense for Ukrainians, as Ukrainians enjoy using e-services. Imagine Ukraine with 7 million IDPs, and this year, in 2023, Ukrainians opened more than 200,000 new businesses. Online is registered kind of 75%. This is a good sign, and this is 50% more than in 2022. This illustrates how easy and simple digital business registration and business operations can stimulate economic growth and economic development. This is probably one of the best examples I would like to share as a way how Ukrainians are fighting corruption. Before that, I mean, definitely, we had a number of very complicated procedure on filling forms, a number of different kind of legal companies which are helping Ukrainians to open their business in one day, which is a kind of hidden way to corruption. Now, you can do this online, and especially with tax regime, which is 5% with like a DSCT. This is a wonderful example how Ukrainians fight corruption. And your second question, Mark, was about what do we need to do to train and to maintain this infrastructure. And this is another, I would say, message I would like to share from Ukraine. I definitely think that Ukrainian case will be studied in universities very soon. But let's say, some conclusions I would like to share with you. My apologies. In some cases, there are several elements of this magic. Our Swiss colleagues sometimes call Ministry of Digital Transformation as Ministry of the Magic. And I would like to share with you several kind of magic ingredients of this efficiency cocktail. One of them is training of those people who will be delivering and maintaining these services. So, aligned with political will, aligned with proper infrastructure, in line with two-ways communication with citizens to build citizens and business-centric services. Definitely the presence of those leaders in digital transformation in each particular ministry, in each particular local government is essential. This is one of the best, I would say, one of the best driver for human capital vary in digital transformation. So we started a program called CDTO Campus, which is supported by various donors. And we really would like to train first, we would like to have CDTO in each particular local government, in each particular central government, and ideally in state-owned enterprises. So these people are driving changes. And this is essential. And second, human capital. Thanks to Google, we developed probably one of the best modern online platform for reskilling and professional education for Ukrainians. With AI, with individual learning paths, with offering your immediately vacancies in your particular city based on your education results. These became available for Ukrainians, and more than 2 million of Ukrainians already kind of tried this and registered. 75% of efficiency, this is an enormous rate. So that means that both training those people, building more partners, building more advocates for digital transformation, and working with citizens of Ukraine, with wider audience, to train them on digital skills, that creates this human capital. And again, probably another message, final message from Victor Liach about digital transformation.
Not the final one. I still have questions.
You said that we would need to have a higher goal. Digital transformation is not a goal. It's probably a meaning, it's an instrument. The goal is, for example, in the case of Ukraine, to build the most convenient state in the world. So this is a goal. strive for higher goals.
Thank you, Victor, for fascinating answers and for helping take DIA and other Ukrainian innovation global. Together with Valeria, you are the person who's, I would say, in the driving seat of this effort, and this is hugely appreciated, and I must say, it's been a pleasure working with you and both of you. Now, if I turn to the other side, to Guy, data is the new oil, so to speak. Governments, on one hand, collect enormous amounts of data, but oftentimes lack data strategies or data tools to make proper data-driven decisions. You've seen this a million times throughout those 51 countries that you cover. Now, how should governments organize their data to make sure to make better decisions on one hand, but also to offer better services to their citizens?
Well, it's a fascinating question because it all boils down to a single thing, and that's trust. Because what we have right now is an asymmetric relationship between the data gatherers and the data providers. The data gatherers have all the power. They can use and abuse that data however they like, because there tends to be a lack of transparency and in some cases a lack of security. It's not true of all companies, but governments need to be very aware of the importance of building that trust and creating a bit of symmetry between the data gatherers and the data providers. The way you do that is that you, let's jump back to trust real quick. Trust is built by a mutual acceptance of vulnerability, where, and it's in a marriage, it's in a business relationship, it's an acceptance of vulnerability and a belief that the other will not be opportunistic and abuse you when you're at your most vulnerable. Well, if we are the data providers, we are completely vulnerable to the gatherers and how they use that. The way that we level the playing field, that we create that symmetry, is through, first and foremost, transparency. How are you going to use my data? If there was a block that came up when you provided data to certain gatherers that said, by the way, in allowing us access to your data, we're going to provide it to third providers that you know nothing about, and they're going to provide it to fourth and fifth providers that you know nothing about, and we're not sure how your data is going to be used once you share it with us. How many of you would accept and opt in? Not many. So we have the obligation to make sure that there is that transparency, and we allow for an opt-in. The second thing is security, right? Mm-hmm. Once we provide that data and we're happy with how it's going to be used, the gatherer, government, has an obligation to keep it secure. And the third is education. I think that there is a massive amount of change happening right now. This fear of AI that's going around is it's big brother, it's Orwellian, it's going to take our jobs. I think that's primarily a result of a lack of education. And we need to get out there and educate people on what data is good for, how we're gathering it, how we're going to use it, and how we're going to secure it. That will help government build tremendous amounts of trust.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that makes a lot of sense. And now GovTech is, thanks to countries like Ukraine and Estonia, probably one of the few areas of digital innovation where Europe is actually leading the world. But yet we have some governments in Europe, I won't name Germany or France, that are not moving that fast. So Philip, how can we basically help make Europe step up the game and embrace new technologies, not just within the public sector, but beyond it? How do we build this trust that Guy was mentioning in new technologies to enable their implementation?
Yeah, I come probably from one of the least digitized countries in Europe, which is Germany, where you cannot even pay by card in Berlin. So it's fashionable to pay cash in some restaurants, so I don't get it. But to your question, I think we have to embrace the opportunity of digital technologies, which is essentially that they are scalable, yeah, at almost zero cost. So when we look at the two examples that you have here, the government app and the education app, I think both of these solutions could be scaled in every European country and implemented there, you know, GovTech as a service if you want. And what we need to overcome, I think, is this not invented here syndrome. You know, everybody wants their own solution, everybody's working on their own app. And in Germany, I have like an example from a municipality that wanted to build an app on AI, like super fancy everything in it, and then they wanted to spend something like 40,000 euros on it. And I thought, it's definitely going to happen that way, yeah? And in, like, when you think like this, and when you have, I don't know, 1,000 municipalities that all have their own budget, they all build their own solution, and nothing is integrated, nothing works, and then you have federal states on top of that, you have nation states on top of that, everybody builds their own thing, it doesn't work, yeah? So I think embracing the opportunity of technology that once you have a best-in-class solution, and we have that, as you mentioned, in Europe with Ukraine and Estonia, just scale it, yeah? And I think this is one way. And the other way, I think, when you walk outside of the GovTech sector, I think we need this trust that you mentioned, yeah, and we need more openness. And this has to do a lot with education, because people are afraid. They are at the moment afraid of many things, including AI, and governments, I think, need to also be able to create a vision. And I think it's, you know, one of the few cases here today that I've actually heard a vision of a government. Yeah? So, and this vision can inspire, like we've seen today. And if you have a vision that inspires, you change fear to hope. And when you have changed from fear to hope, you can change to momentum and then to progress. And I think this is maybe, you know, the foundation is a vision, but then implementation. And then you can take it also broader, not only in the GovTech sector, but beyond.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And thanks to this vision and all the inspiration, this is probably one of the more optimistic panels in Davos, which is no small achievement in this era of doom and gloom. Now, Marta, the cyberspace is increasingly important when it comes to all things cybersecurity related. How is Google, or how can technology help governments protect not just the critical infrastructure, but also citizens from cyber attacks?
That's a very good question. I think, first of all, when it comes to large platforms, security at scale is a given. And I know that you know, the size of IT solution is very often discussed, but one untold story about this is that usually the bigger you are, the more responsibility you have. And I think companies like Google prove that we take that responsibility seriously, also thanks to that scale. And, you know, so this starts with us. And there is a default security we need to provide to users, to governments when they're using our services, and then it trickles down, starting from how you can protect each and every feature you're using, how you can do that within the system, how you can do that with external devices such as security keys. So there are more and more ways to keep oneself secure. I really don't like this when every panel ends up with saying we need more education, but I will say that again, like people, like cybersecurity and hygiene in how we should be using technology in a safe way should become part of education, like we're learning colors, like we're learning how to cross the street. This needs to be introduced. It's not an extra. It's not something that should be a nice to have. This is definitely a foundation of how to function in today's world. And after all, it boils down to how we look at Ukraine fighting the war with technology. Companies like Google are passionate, and many of you in this room are passionate about technology. There will be no technology without freedom and openness. Ukraine is fighting for freedom with technology that can exist only when it's free, open, accessible, uncensored, unlimited, not abused by bad actors who can also use can use technology for wrong purposes, and often people ask like what you're doing and what you're doing exactly, how you're supporting this and that. I also think we should be talking about why we're doing this, why we need to be doing this, why in this particular case we all need to stand by the side of Ukraine in every field that we're responsible of. I think technology is a big chunk of it. And I hope everyone will share the same sense. Once we'll be leaving this room, once we'll be leaving Davos, once we'll be waking up every day, that this should not be going away.
Thank you, Marta, for not being just passionate about technology, but about Central and Eastern Europe in general, and Ukraine in particular. Companies like Google and Cisco have been staunch supporters of Ukraine from the day one of the full-scale Russian invasion, and really showing the way to the rest of the corporate world. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Now, the last question, before I open the panel to your questions, and bear in mind that I was just informed by the organizers that we can go a little bit over time, so there'll be plenty of time for you. But Your Excellency, perhaps let's finish this moderated part of the conversation on the issue of skills, not just generally, but particularly in the government. You were mentioning the need for an agile and results-oriented mindset in government. But this kind of mindset is hardly to be expected for people that have been in government for decades. How can governments of the future attract top talent in all the areas, from public policy to AI and other digital skills? What is the formula that Moldova is pursuing here?
Well, thank you for this very complicated question. There is no straightforward solution. I think it's a combination of let's first also create talent, because we're speaking about cyber. Nobody has enough cyber experts. We have to educate them. We have to bring them in, and that's what bring them on board in the government in order to make our system more resilient. But also, it is true that if you've spent too much time, and I know not many people have been probably in the building of the government of Moldova, but jokes aside, if you spend too much time on those corridors, you stop believing in change. That's the reality. Marta, you've seen those corridors.
I think that's a universal truth.
I think it's about
not just in Moldova.
It's about bringing new blood, new people, and it's about having this enough drive in order to cut through the sometimes justified resistance. Because it's easy if someone resists because they are corrupt. But what if they are truly, this is how they're built. They are good intended, they are not, they don't have bad intentions, they don't have corrupt interests, but this is how they are. This is how they are educated, and they are afraid of it. And it's their decision not to proceed. So how do you do that? I mean, it's a challenge. Of course, it all comes from above. It comes from strong political will, a political push that this is where we're going. And as long as we have this commitment, as long as we have this strong engagement of politicians, and there is a lot of appetite in the government, in the parliament, in the presidency for these changes, then this resistance becomes, let's say, manageable. And just to, with this I will conclude, how we managed to increase the pace of digitalization of public services. Because first you have to build the road, then the cars will show up. Yeah, and that's the same with this. You have to have the public service available in digital form, then you improve it, then you promote it, and so on. There were about 45 people in the room representing different authorities, and jokingly, but not really jokingly, it was said that, well, some of you is going to lose their job if this is not done, and that's how you do it. Sometimes you have to push from above, because just waiting for the government inertia to accelerate by itself, you will not get anywhere. 4 years, which is our mandate, will pass very fast, and you'll end up only with strategies and with legislation that is approved, and on paper everything looks nice, but not in reality. And really, government is about delivering, and the government is about really striving to change the life of the people for the better, and that's the most important, the most basic reason why a government actually exists.
I think that's absolutely true, and I must say I've been fortunate myself to be able to build Ministry for Digital Transformation from scratch, and I designed it as a little startup within the grand edifice of the government, being able to cherry pick the best people from the public service and bring some talent from the outside. But most ministers or governments don't have this luxury. And I realized how important it is to build coalitions within ministries, within government, and also politically when it comes to this kind of changes. Because no lasting change will happen within a broad consensus. There will always be some opposition. You can count on that. But you need to make sure it's as minimal as possible. Now, let me open the floor for questions. Not everyone at once, please. Yes, of course. Absolutely. Photos first, questions later. Mikhailo, can you join us on stage? Thank you.
Please.
Anytime.
Okay, get close, please.
Again.
Say dia.
One more.
Thank you so much.
We're having a Q&A, so please don't leave.
5 minutes. Okay, the lady in red.
Hello, I'm Anna. I'm a fintech entrepreneur, and I'm on several advisory boards. Spent over 25 years as a portfolio manager and a trader in the City of London. So a question I have is, we have not mentioned fintech as yet. And this great education should also lead to some improved financial literacy. And we know that young people want to take control over their financial decisions. Rather than calling their financial brokers and bankers, they want to be empowered to themselves. Now, the amazing app we have just seen probably is thinking about providing a financial component to the wider audience.
I think that's a great question. We can take a couple of more, if there are any. On this side, please. Let's build a broad coalition of left and right.
Hi, Vasily from Horizon Capital. We are among the active investors in Ukraine, and actually even yesterday, I think it's another proof of the success of DSCT. Yesterday we invested in a company from Zhytomyr, big ticket, 8 figures, $1 million. And, but my question is about a different thing. So it's about, and actually I was hoping that somebody from the Ministry of Digital Transformation is here. So it was a question to the representatives of the Ministry of Digital Transformation and the Minister Alaiba.
I think Victor will be more than able
my
to
question is the
answer
following.
all Ukraine-related questions.
I quickly Googled, and you may be skeptical of these numbers from these market reports, but it says that the global marketing for government tech is about $430 billion. Ukraine has some of the best products in the world. Is this seen as a potential revenue opportunity for the government that can drive tens, hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue to the Ukrainian state? And the second, can we also leverage the amazing IT service companies from Ukraine to be the digital transformation implementers for this? Maybe starting with countries like Moldova.
Victor, perhaps you go ahead with the Ukraine-related ones.
I know we are running out of time. Fintech is an essential part of the work we do. Imagine different kind of systems like Visa joined the DIA platform, and especially then government wanted to provide subsidies or payments and help, financial aid to IDPs. We didn't need to collect all documents and bring it to local governments. You immediately receive, if you are qualified, automatically you receive payment card, virtual payment card in your smartphone, and you receive money for that. This is Cash Assistance Suite. This is a good sample how we integrated fintech into the e-government tool, which is essential part, absolutely agree. In addition, we understand that it's not enough to have only opportunities and services. A big component of DIA education is all about financial aspects. Either you're a businessman or citizen, it gives you an understanding of how taxes work, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur, how to build your financial plan, etc. And in very short, yes, this is essential part, and every government which thinks about the digitalization in e-GovTech, fintech should be essential part. Again, wanted to thank all our partners. Like these are because of without private business, private sector engagement, it wouldn't be possible. So another question was to, can I go ahead with that?
Yes, of course, very quickly.
DIA will be open sourced very soon. And Ukraine does not plan to have direct profit out of that. I mean, our philosophy is that Ukraine developed DIA with international support, with international donors, and it will be not fair to, let's say, to ask money for that. But at the same time, 1 year ago, we promised that DIA will be working in other countries. Happy to say Estonia is already using, will be using DIA very soon, and several other countries is in a line to implement DIA. And definitely here is a big opportunities for Ukrainian IT sector, because it will not be done by government, it will be done by Ukrainian companies to adoption DIA, etc. So yes, this is a big market. Yes, in case you have opportunities to invest, I would strongly advise you to do that as soon as possible, because again, World Economic Forum is about the future, right? We are doing predictions. 1 year ago, we predicted that we'll fund digitality. Digitality will be operating worldwide and will be introducing DIA in other states. Yes, we did. Estonia is a good sample. My prediction is that by next Davos, we ambitious enough to launch DIA in 5 other countries, hopefully. So there is a big potential for investments. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. This was very well said. Please follow and support Digitality online, and we're happy to answer any questions. Your Excellency, any closing thoughts before we wrap up today's discussion?
I will only support what Victor said, but you can't start asking money from the government products. But what you do is actually create a lot of opportunity for the vision to be exported, for the companies that are working in the country to be able to make a good business by exporting the products, their experience somewhere else. And that's exactly what, for example, countries like Estonia are doing. All of their soft is open source. However, you have e-government's academy, you have other entities that are directly exporting the Estonian model abroad.
But let's say Estonia is GovTech 1.0, Ukraine is 2.0. DIA app is so good that even Estonia implemented it. Yeah. They did not have this kind of government app before, which is pretty amazing. Gentlemen on my right, any closing thoughts?
I'm really just super impressed from what I've seen today. That's the feeling that I will leave with here, that this is like really a huge showcase for how GovTech can be done, and it should be really an inspiration for other governments around the world to pick up.
Please spread the voice in Berlin.
I try.
And please ask Ukrainians if you need any help in introducing e-GovTech in Germany.
Perfect, thank you. Guy?
Just a quick thought on AI, and because there's so much negative going on related to AI around Davos, as you referenced, a bit of positive. Think about AI as a 24/7 online tutor. So you talk about fintech, wanting us to be able to educate ourselves and make our own decisions. That's an AI tutor that's going to be associated with just about everything. Almost all of the government services that you're going to be accessing will probably have an AI tutor very soon right alongside of it. When we do our cybersecurity training, we can take someone that's 18 years old that doesn't want to go to college but wants to be a cybersecurity technician, one of those 4.5 million open jobs right now around the world, and in 3 months, they can be fully trained, skilled, and certified to be a cybersecurity technician, and alongside is that AI tutor. So it's going to be extraordinary. Imagine having an expert right alongside you in almost every endeavor moving forward. And it's not one that you have to pay for. It's just going to be embedded. So I think that's a real positive. It's going to allow us to be a lot more autonomous in our decision making and our learning.
Thank you. Oof, do we have 2 or 3 hours more? I'm afraid we're
going to say different panel, right?
It's
no, sidebar.
It's a great question, but different panel, and let's leave it there. Thank you so much, dear panelists, for a wonderful discussion. Thank you for great questions. I think this was better than whatever you can find or generate using ChatGPT. And let me close just by saying, let's stay innovative. Let's stay creative, let's stay bold, and let's stay brave like Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to thank also our panelists. So stay warm in Davos with the Ukrainian scarf. It's designed by the Ukrainian designers. And support the creative industries as well. Так, будь ласка. We will have the next panel that will start at 12 p.m. On this panel, we will have the Minister of Strategic Industries, Alexander Kamyshin. So please join us at 12 p.m. here on the next panel. Please also, during the break, go downstairs and try Ukrainian coffee. Thank you. And tea, yes. Thank you.